I didn't say it, Jesus said it, right? We understand that it applies to the situation, but it also applies to you. It applies to you because the sickness of your sin does not mean death. Instead, he is, in fact, the very person who can take away and remove that sickness from you, just as he can resurrect Lazarus, which, spoiler alert, that's what's coming in the story. We understand that Jesus said this sickness is not unto death. Here's the crazy part. The messenger comes to him. He gets back the word. The sickness is not unto death. He leaves and returns back to them. Let me tell you what happens over these 4 days in the Bible. On the very first day, a messenger would have traveled to Jesus from Mary and Martha. In the process of his traveling to Jesus, Lazarus would have died. So the word that he came to deliver to Jesus, that Lazarus is sick, would not even have been accurate anymore. The word, when it gets to Jesus, is now even wrong. Lazarus is no longer sick. Lazarus is dead. Jesus then would have immediately given him the word. This sickness is not unto death. Now, you take just a moment in your confusion, puzzle your brain. How is it that the sickness is not unto death when Lazarus was sick and he died before you even gave the word that it was not unto death? Day 2, this messenger would have traveled back to Bethany because it was 1 full day's travel. It was 20 miles. 20 miles, one way was all downhill and one way was all uphill. And unfortunately, his return trip would have been all uphill. So on day 2, he travels back to Bethany. On day 3, we have the second of the 2 days that Jesus waited, which is what we heard and see there in verse 6, where he says that he waited 2 more days where he was. This would have been the second of the 2 days that Jesus waited. On the 4th day, it would have been Jesus' full day walk to Bethany when he arrives. And we know that Lazarus was dead 4 days. It is in this reality that we're going to kind of continue to look at the story. I want you to look at this from the reality of the sisters and apply this to your life, because I think that it does change a little bit of the tonality of the story, and there is something here for us to grow, that we should trust everything that Jesus has said, even though most of what Jesus is going to say is going to confuse us in the situation that we find ourselves in. They sent word about sickness, and then they experienced the death. The word comes back to them about there not being death in the sickness, but he has already died.